Now this is just an introduction to rendering. It's about the use of light and shade and how you can build areas of light and shade using markers. So I'm just going to pretend, if you like, that this is the back wall, this is the floor, and these are 3 cubes sitting in front of it. And there are three light sources here as well. So what I'm going to do first is what I always do to counteract the bleed, just put a line around the area that I'm rendering. And I'm going to render the whole thing in because this is generally what you do when you start off. You decide what the colours are. Once you've made your colour choices, then you block in large areas and then you layer into the light and shade and the detail. Okay, now you can see I'm moving the page around here as well. And again, that's just to suit me. So I don't really like it stuck down on a drawing board. I prefer to have it, you know, so that I can move it around. Now, so the first thing I'm going to do, even though this wall is recessed and these are, if you like, small downlights on the wall, I'm going to block in everything. So I'm blocking in the whole wall. Now this is just going to take a little bit of time, so just bear with me. I mean, you get the picture. You just keep your hand steady and try and get through it as quickly as you can. You can see that I'm leaning my hand on the page just to guide me. And I'm actually using my elbow to move so that I get a straighter line. Okay, so I think I've very nearly blocked in now the back wall. Now, that'll do for the moment. And I'm just going to let that dry. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to colour in these cubes. So I'm going to just again put my line in, maybe where the green is, you know, where it's bled in a tiny bit. Now, what I'm going to do now is, it's almost like I'm looking at what's within the boundary of that blue line, and I'm just going to block the whole thing in one colour. Right, we block them in 3 different colours. Let me see now. Darker one. So is this, yeah, that's pretty good too. So I'm going to do exactly the same for the middle one. Block in the colours while I'm waiting for that back wall to dry. Now, same approach as the blue one to the left. I'm literally just treating what's inside the boundary of that green line as one block of colour. I'm going to do this a slightly different colour again, but as a designer I tend to like to have things matching, so this in itself would fit into an analogous colour scheme or a harmonious colour scheme where we're using 3 colours, 3 or more, or 2 or more colours that are beside each other on the colour wheel. So I just like the look of that. So we've green, blue, green and blue. So you could argue that that is an analogous or harmonious colour scheme. Very pleasing to the eye, the one that's most commonly found in nature. Okay, so I've my 3 cubes blocked in and I have the back wall blocked in. I'm just going to show you one that I did earlier. I'm not sure if you can see that. Yeah, so you can see I have light and shade applied into the recess and I have the lighting applied here. Okay, and I'm going to show you how I did that. So, like, I'm going to assume that maybe on this the light is coming in this direction, and if the light is coming in this direction it's going to maybe hit the inside of the recess here, and here are going to be dark. Now again, it just depends on what sort of lighting you're using and where you're putting your lighting, but this is to really show you how versatile the markers can be in terms of light and shade. So this is the same colour, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over this part of the recess again, so it goes almost a shade darker, even possibly a shade more intense. Okay, so already you can see that that's, you know, been given a little bit of depth. So I'm just going to let that dry, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to accentuate here the area around the light. Okay, sometimes it's the contrast or what's around something that makes it pop. So always be aware of what's around or beside what you're rendering. And I'm just going to maybe accentuate that a tiny bit, make that a tiny bit darker. Now equally you can do this with your pencils, and in fact we might go over that in pencil. Anyway, just to take it down a bit. God, if I have that green colour or something similar. I'm sure I do. I do actually. Okay. So I'll just leave that there for the moment. Now, I'm looking at this as well now and I'm thinking, well, you know, the very back bit here, the back that's very much recessed, would be a little bit darker too, and these areas would be lighter. Okay, so I'm just going to let that dry, and I'm going to take my white pencil, and this is a Polychromos pencil, Faber-Castell Polychromos pencil, and it's called White 101. Now these cost you about €180 each, but it's well worth, you know, buying them singly. You'll always use a white or a dark brown. I think we talked about the browns in a separate video. So get a few of them because they break and you lose them and so on. So a few whites, a few browns, and maybe some natural colours like wood colours, stone colours, etc. So my light is coming down here, so I'm going to go over this with the pencil. Now you see how well the pencil sits on the marker. Okay, so this in itself creates that sort of light effect. So you put your white in quite intensely up near the light source, and then you start to fade it out as it moves away from the light source. You know, and your rendering is a good learning tool too, because it starts to make you visualize how your lighting is going to look and how it's going to indeed impact the color in the space and the volume in the space and so on. Okay, so I'm looking at this again and I'm wondering now, do I have a white Tipp-Ex pen? I do. Now this is a white pen here. Again, it's Faber-Castell, and it is an artist's pen, and it has a bullet nib, and it's White 101, so it's the same colour as the pencil. It's you know, the generally used white, if you like. But this can give just a highlight on the light source, which can work really well. Okay, so I'm going to let that dry because sometimes it soaks in. Because you can just see that very slight highlight there that just makes all the difference in terms of the light source. Now what I'm going to do now is I have kind of a suitable green pencil. Now your shading doesn't have to go in green, it can go in darker colours. I have a grey here as well that I might have a go at, just to make the contrast a little more or greater. I'm just pairing my pencils here. It's very important that your pencils are always sharp. Now I'm going to see if there's enough difference between this pen. Yeah. Okay, so you can see how once you've blocked out your colour, then you apply your light and shade with your pencil. Now you can do it with marker as well, as I'm going to show you on these cubes. But this just adds that little bit of detail, that little bit of finish, and it's quite easy to do. And the beauty of this as well is if you make a mistake with your pencil, you can literally just rub it out and maybe start again if that's where you're at. But try not to be too kind of afraid of making mistakes when you're rendering. Go for it, because you know a lot of them you can fix. And again, like most things in the drawing area, it's all about practice. Okay, now I'm just going to apply a little bit of grey in here, just to really highlight the contrast there. Now I'm not pressing down very hard with the grey because I don't want it to become too dominant. So it's just like I'm putting a little layer. And this is a nice cool grey, a blue grey. This one is, this is Prismacolor. These are an American brand. And they are expensive, but they're excellent. Now, okay, so there you have your lighting or your highlight. You can also do it with pastel. Let me see, do I have any pastels here? It's somewhere. Not sure that I have any pastel. Oh, I do. Okay, you can also put your highlight in with a white pastel. So this is another thing I'd recommend. I mean, pastels are quite specific in how they're used in rendering and drawing. So I wouldn't recommend that you use them because they can be very, very messy. Unless you're super skilled at using them, I'd avoid them like the plague because they mess up your pages and it's very hard to clean them. So there's my pastel here. Okay. So this is a pastel. Again, it's a Faber-Castell one. That's one of the brands. You can also use a Rembrandt. And we'll just get a sense of... Now, that won't go over the pencil, but it goes straight over the marker. Can you see that? So equally, you can use your pastel to achieve that light and shade balance. You know, it's arguably easier to kind of fade these out with your finger if you want to as well. Okay, so I'd recommend getting one of these. They're not wildly expensive either. They might be like $150 or something like that. So that's not going to break the bank. Now, to go back to this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it down again, both these areas here, both the recesses and the back of the recess. Now, I'm just going to start off doing this with the finer nib, and then I'm going to move in to use maybe the flat nib on the larger surface area. And you can go over this as many times as you want and take it down as many times as you want, and if it's still not dark enough, well, hey, you have your grey pencil. Now, I just want to make sure you can see that. And even if the bits bleed over to these areas here that you want to be lighter, don't over worry it because that's very easily fixed. Now I'm just going to go over this again because I want it darker. Now hopefully our cubes have dried. They're not quite dry, but they're nearly dry. So I'm assuming that if the light source is coming from, say, here, and it's having an impact on these cubes, that the front of the cubes is going to be the darkest of the three facades or the three planes. Okay, this is going to be the darkest one. So what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to kick this off. I'm going to build up the colour to create the light and shade with the marker. And let's see how well it works. I mean, it does work, but it works better with some colours than others, so it's kind of like a little bit of a trial and error. But because this piece here is darker as well, I'm going to go over this. So in the end, you know, this has one coat, these two have two, but in the end this is going to have one, this is going to have two, this is going to have three, and we'll have a look and see what effect it gives. Same with this one. Now we can only see the front and the top of this one, so I'm going to put this here. Now, and as you can see, the front of my cube has gone darker and the top stays lighter, but let them dry first so we can get a kind of a true picture of what's happening. Same with this one here. So you can see the front and the side are going darker, and the top is lighter. Now I'm going to let those dry, and I'm going to go in here again. This isn't quite dark enough for me, so I'm going to go over this again. Background is fine. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make the inside of this recess, this side, a little lighter. Now there are a number of ways to approach this. I mean, I could pull the grey pencil. I could pull the grey pencil around this to make it darker. You know, just to give it that bit of an edge. But I suppose what I'm trying to show you here is how you can use the markers to create light and shade. So we've got our light sources, we have our recess. So I want to go in on these again. Now again, I could just shade over them with the grey marker, or indeed a pencil that's the same colour. But what I want to achieve really is that real difference in colour. Finally do that very green one, the kind of Kelly green one here. I'm going to do the front. Now the best thing to do here is to let these dry completely and then go over them again, and you will get a better result. Okay, but basically what I'm trying to show you here is how you can build light and shade and rendering with just your markers, with marker and pencil, and how it's very important to block in the main colour first and then treat your rendering with light and shade.